Once you've learned how to create basic shapes, it's time to learn how to modify them to depict different elements in the landscape. We use line weight to suggest the height of objects, line type to differentiate types of objects such as property lines or objects above or below ground plane. We use fills to indicate material selection. In Vectorworks, the 2D attributes of an object are controlled in the Attributes palette. First, let's draw some basic shapes to work with. We'll start with a rectangle to represent the property line. The average Portland property is 50 feet by 100 feet. Everything else we draft is to scale. To create a rectangle with those exact dimensions, double-click the Rectangle tool. Enter 50 feet for the width and 100 feet for the length. Then, using the bounding box, select the center dot. The rectangle will be positioned from the center based on where we click in the drawing area. Click OK. To remove the white interior fill, go to the Attributes palette and change the fill from solid to none. As I'm adding new objects to the file, I don't want them to include a fill. To change the default settings of the Attributes palette, make sure you don't have anything selected. Right now I can tell the rectangle is selected because it's highlighted in orange and the Object Info palette is showing me information about the rectangle. There are two ways to deselect an object. Either hit the Escape key a couple of times, or with the Selection tool active, click a blank area in the drawing. I can verify there's nothing selected by checking the Object Info palette. Now any changes I make in the Attributes palette will be reflected as I draft new objects in the file. In this instance, I want to change the fill to none. Next, let's add a house. Using the rectangle again, I'm going to draw a house that's 30 feet by 20 feet. Using the corner-to-corner mode, click to position the upper left-hand corner, then press the Tab key. Enter 30 feet for the X value and press Tab. Then enter negative 20 feet for the Y value and press Tab again. Entering in these values has created reference lines. Place the cursor over the lower left-hand corner and either click or press Enter. Next, let's add a patio using the Rectangle tool. This time, instead of using an exact dimension, we'll just eyeball a size that's proportional to the house. This is a two-click operation, so the first click will start the rectangle, the second will end it. Now let's add a table to the patio. And let's add a tree to the left of the patio. Switch to the Circle tool. Using the Radius mode, the first click will be the center, the second click will be the radius. Now that we have a group of shapes to play with, let's look at the different features that are part of the Attributes palette. The Attributes palette is used to control the appearance of 2D objects in the file. We've already seen how we can remove the fill of an object. We can also add a fill. The three I most commonly use are solid, hatch, and tile. We'll cover those in greater detail when we discuss depicting materials. As well as controlling the type of fill, we can also change the opacity. Be selective when lowering opacity. Opacity can be useful for plant canopies where there are plants below that need to be shown, but you wouldn't want to use it for a solid object. If you like the appearance of the lighter color, then go back to the color selector and choose the lighter color at full opacity. Next is the pen, which controls the outline of a 2D object. You can remove the outline entirely by selecting None. You can also use a solid line or a line type. The outline can further be modified by changing the color by clicking this box. The opacity of the pen can be changed independent of the fill. We can select the line weight here. The next two drop-downs are for markers. Markers won't work on closed shapes. The rectangles and circles we've drawn in the file are all closed shapes. There's no beginning or end. Notice when a closed shape is selected, the marker options are grayed out. A line, however, is not a closed shape and has a beginning and end, which means I can add a marker. The most common marker you'll use is an arrow. This arrow is a little small. I can make the arrow larger by selecting Custom and editing the length field. Most fields in Vectorworks acts as a calculator. meaning I can enter an exact number, or in this case, multiply by 3. At the very bottom of the palette is the Effects section. Here you can add a shadow and edit the color. There's also a dialog box that controls other aspects of the shadow, such as offset, blur, angle, and opacity. If you use this feature, use it very sparingly.